Lots to talk about. Lots to talk about. Two very different projects that came back to back,
What do you
right?
mean?
What am I
They're the
talking
same.
about? Let's go straight into Superior Donuts.
Sure.
So fun, so funny. Judd Hirsch, what a legend.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you thought when you first got the scripts for this.
I first thought that I wasn't gonna get it because the character was really intellectual, and I thought the material was really funny, but apparently I live in the 1950s, and I was like, she's an intellectual, she's gonna be a brunette. But that I really loved the material. And I was out in LA shooting a few episodes of this Amazon show, Girls Revolt, and I had never auditioned for a 4-camera show before, or a multicam show before. So I immediately was just really nervous, but the material felt like a really fun combination of kind of a classic sitcom and also really relevant material. So I was excited, and then I just went into the audition thinking that I wasn't going to get it, which is the biggest gift because then I wasn't nervous, and I had a lot of fun with it.
I mean, coming up in this day and age of content, I feel like the multi-camera show is like a bit of a old school method,
Totally.
you know?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of training for that. It's like a play, you know? Tell me a little bit about that experience for you.
It is like a play. I was really nervous when I found out I did get it because it's really physical, and I'd gone to theater school, and so physical kind of broad comedy felt like it was a little bit in my wheelhouse, but then I felt like I had just spent a few years trying to master on camera, and then suddenly I was being told that I was allowed to be big again. So, but in the end of the day, I've been watching Judd Hirsch a lot, who actually does. He doesn't do anything too big. He really plays it kind of straight and like a play. So I've been trying to find a happy medium in there, but it's really different. It's a kind of specific medium that's different than anything else.
I mean, have you been able to glean any advice from him yet? I mean, the guy is, he's worked forever.
Yeah. His advice is always, like very, very, very broad, which at moments feels great, but I'm like, but what do I do with that? Like he said to me one day, he was like, Anna, you have to be endlessly curious about yourself. And I was like, but how's that going to help me in this scene right now? But he's great. Because he has a lot of theater training and also some TV and film stuff, he has really specific advice about like just walk as though you're going to the bathroom there, and that'll solve that problem, which is really kind of practical. And then sometimes he'll give advice like, be endlessly curious about yourself, or what was another one? Oh, he was like, do you remember Commedia dell'arte? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, think about that. I was like, okay, sure.
These are some intense slogans he's doling out there.
Yes.
He's like a little Nietzsche, he's out there sort of doling out this.
I know. On set, one day we were talking about social media, and he just came over and he was like, well, let me talk to you about the first time I saw a television set. We were like, all right.
Some great stories. I mean, so tell me a little bit about your character. I mean, she's a post-grad.
Yeah.
She's coming to the donut store to use internet or try to glean some Wi-Fi.
She's a grad student at somewhere like UChicago, and she's studying sociology, and she's using the donut shop as kind of her library without any other students in it. But I also think because, when you're in school, you're only around people your own age. I think also she wants the company of people who are unlike her. And even though she's super educated and comes from a really privileged background, she likes being around people who are dissimilar from her. So that's Maya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's quite a few characters. I mean, Jermaine, some great actors that you're working with. How's the cast bonding, and how's it to film the show?
I love the cast. And they're all super different. I didn't know a lot about stand-up coming into it, but when I read the pilot, I then started Googling Jermaine, and I was like, this stand-up's all right. He'll get better. No, I thought he was so charismatic and so fresh, and he's really the kindest person and a great leader in the room because he's open to hearing ideas from everyone, and he's so relaxed and playful. And then Katie Segal is one of my favorite people that I've ever met in life, and she, she's been really great to learn from because she did Married with Children for so many years. But
Sons
also,
of Anarchy, exactly.
Sons of Anarchy, Gemma, I know, and but some great dramatic roles in there. So she's been really great as as an actress to help me figure out what for camera means. But everyone's so nice too. They say people aren't nice, like there's attitudes, but they're like the kindest people I've ever met.
Yeah. Are there actually donuts on the set?
Oh, they're all real. They are all real donuts.
Do you have a favorite? Are you stalking down craft service for anything in particular? Or?
There are these ones, I think they're like an apple fritter thing. They're kind of big. They're the ugliest ones, honestly, so they get used the least, so then they're just all around, but they're really good.
I mean, when you were first starting out, first during plays and starting to do some TV roles, did you ever imagine that you'd be getting paid to eat donuts on CBS?
Only in my dreams. That is only something I was dreaming about. I did assume that they would be fake. I feel like when you watch TV shows, or at least I did growing up, I assumed that any food wasn't really real, like people weren't actually getting wet. Turns out it all just happens. Just eat the stuff.
Yeah. I mean, so let's tell a little bit about starting out. You know, what made you want to, catch the acting bug?
What was going on in my house was just always performance. My parents are dancers, but also my siblings. My brother really loved making home videos that were kind of really more than anything like small independent films. And my sister is also a great dancer and a great visual artist. So I think in that sense it was just what I grew up, that's how I understood the world. But then also my neighborhood, weirdly, had a children's Shakespeare group. It's called CST, Children's Shakespeare Theater. It was intense, and we were really intense about it. We took it very seriously. But it was like how other people did, I don't know, soccer after school. But it was started in the 70s by my neighbor, and then she started it up again when I was younger, and we did A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I fell in love with a community of people doing theater, and then it kind of just became second nature. When people asked what I wanted to do, I just said, I'm an actor.
And here you are.
And here I am.
When your brother was making those videos, what kind of videos were you guys shooting? Were they like epic adventure films, or what were you guys doing?
We did Gladiator Jr., that was pretty serious.
You as Russell Crowe, obviously.
Unfortunately, I was assistant cameraman and I think, random Gladiator number 4, but that was one. And then we also had a recurring segment called Cooking with Anna, where I had my own cooking show, which my poor mom, we would torture her because basically anything that was in the fridge was laid out on the table and we were just mixing it together. And you hear my mom in the background of these videos being like, Anna, please don't eat that. Like, you already brushed your teeth, please no. But yeah, those were kind of the highlights, and some music videos.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
To what kind of music?
We did one. I think a lot of Blink-182 was involved. Maybe some Smash Mouth.
The rock show, that sort of thing?
Yes, we were working with early 2000s. Spectacular material.
Oh, so good. Bread and butter right there.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit. Let's get into Manchester by the Sea, because I think that's such a tremendous film. I'm not sure if everybody's seen it. If you haven't seen it, Oscars, obviously. You're not in the know. Kenneth Lonergan, I mean, he's a genius. I mean, what was it like to work with him?
The best experience of my life. He's really wonderful. He is the most thoughtful and patient person to work with, and really loves actors and gives actors a lot of agency. And everything was allowed to be a conversation, which, it was my first movie, and I had this idea, especially because I grew up doing theater, I had this idea of him as this spectacular writer, and I didn't want to mess up any of his words, and I kind of approached it being like, this person knows best. And then I saw how he was working with Lucas and with Casey, and how comfortable he was discussing the material and being like, well, maybe I'm wrong about this, or maybe this needs to be changed. And the amount of detail that he was willing to go in with about, I was in a few scenes in the movie. It's not like it was my movie, and the amount of time he gave me to figure it out was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of direction did he give you for Sandy, and what did you sort of bring to the role yourself?
I thought what was really smart was a direction he didn't give me, which is he never talked about it being a dramatic or sad movie, because our scenes were lighter hearted. So, he never phrased things in such a way of, this is especially funny because this kid can't manage to make things happen with you, and also he's struggling with this massive life event. He really was like, the joke is that he can't get his hands out of your pants. You know what I mean? He didn't intellectualize it in the broader scheme of the movie when we were in the room. He just wanted us to be focused and comfortable. I thought something that he did really beautifully was he said, he was like, I'm not a teenage girl, or I've never been a teenage girl, so does this room look right to you? Does this line seem right to you? Do people say that? And that was really amazing because you know, I was like, well, maybe I guess that butterfly poster, she's in a rock band, it was a conversation. So yeah, and I don't know what I brought to it. A rough singing voice more than anything.
I was gonna say, those band performances, I mean, they're such a welcome relief because the movie is so tense that those scenes are like really hilarious when it keeps on coming back to those performances. You know, were you guys actually playing, or what
hilarious
was that?
for you, terrifying for me. It actually wasn't in the original script that we would actually sing, and I kid you not, I showed up in Boston like with my lines memorized to the T, and he was like, so you're actually gonna memorize this new song? And I was like, well, do you want to hear me sing before you make that decision? But it was a lot of fun because some of the, you know, one of the guys didn't play the guitar and he picked it up a few days before. But we had someone come to set and rock out with us for a bit. And when I did it in a rehearsal, he pulled me aside after. He's like, I just need you to sell it a little bit more. So then we were shooting the next day and I'm like,
you really
going
sell it,
hard.
that's for sure, yeah.
Yeah, when I watched the movie with my family, I felt my sister physically, when that scene came on, she was like, ooh. Yeah.
Did you guys hit any karaoke bars? You know, would you guys do anything else for the music, you know, to get you dialed in?
I wish. I've had some rough karaoke moments of my own, but I'm glad Michelle Williams did not see me do that.
Yeah. Did you guys, you know, obviously my family's from Massachusetts. I'm sure the Boston accent was something that was a little bit discussed. I mean, did you guys take any direction with that, or?
Yeah, it is daunting because it has a reputation as the accent that gets messed up the most.
Even for guys who grew up in Boston. I mean, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon still get,
Yeah, well, we had a dialect coach who was really wonderful, and she went through all of my lines with me. But what was tricky was that a lot of the references I had of the accent were like action movies with guys, and it'd be like, you're gonna do this now, and I'm playing
like The Town, you're watching The Town to research?
Truly, yeah, I was, and then I was like, I'm playing a teenage girl, I need to hear some teenage girls speak, so I went to the mall and followed them. It's something I should never say out loud. It's like, and then I was arrested. No, I stood as close to groups of girls at this mall in some of my days off, because I think with any accent you do have to pay attention to who the character is and what age group and who does she hang out with, and you know, the guys at the wharf, the fishermen are not speaking the same as the girls at the mall, and there's so much variation in that accent, and that's in the movie. So I hope I didn't completely mess it up.
And we're not gonna dwell on this, but obviously the bedroom scene is hilarious. I mean,
dwell all you would like.
No. But tell us a little bit about what it's like to shoot that. I mean, it's your first big movie, and you're having to do this very sort of intimate but hilarious scene.
I kind of think it was a blessing because it feels like the most nerve-wracking position to be in. I was like, this is my first movie. I admire this director so much, and here I am in my underwear. It's kind of like it's all out on the table.
Happens all the time.
Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't it kind of felt like I had no room to be embarrassed or awkward because I really wanted to do a good job. And I also think because it was a scene between teenagers, it was kind of appropriate that there was a lot of fumbling. I don't know what would happen if I was supposed to do one of those like actual sexy scenes because all of that awkwardness was real. Yeah. But they were fun because Lucas is tremendously. Everyone knows he's talented, but he's also like the most respectful, kind person ever. And asked if everything was okay. Probably after a while, I was like, "Do whatever you need to." But yeah, it ended up just being fun.
Yeah. And then to have, you know, once the movie was done and in the can, then seeing it for the first time, it premiered here at the New York Film Festival, which is such a big film festival with a lot of prestige.
Yeah.
What was the experience to see sort of like the buzz start and then Oscar talk and that sort of thing? What was it like to be a part of that for your first feature?
It was really crazy. The first time I saw it with the score finished and with coloring and everything was at Sundance, and it was a huge theater. And seeing other people respond who hadn't read the script at that point a year and a half ago was really amazing, and really kind of reinvigorated that I love doing it so much, because I think it's really easy. I think the first time I saw the movie, I was just like, oh my God, I hate it. I hate myself. And then the next time I was like, I think it's a good movie. and this time I could actually see it to start to finish. And more than anything, it just made me really stunned by everyone else's performances. Because even the small ones, even people who are in one or two scenes, I just thought the work was so wonderful. So I just felt really lucky.
And then, for your next film project, I mean, do you want to do more drama? Are you loving the comedy now with Superior Donuts? I mean, what kind of world do you want to live in?
I don't know. I think something that I learned with Manchester is that drama is not as far from comedy as we give it credit for, and that both come out of the same impulses. Obviously, something like Superior Donuts, it's much more about sometimes landing a joke. And I really like that kind of work too. So I think more than anything, I just want to do something different, because I'm trying to take Judd Hirsch's advice and be endlessly curious about myself and see what else I can actually do.
Yeah. And what can people expect from the next episode of Superior Donuts? I mean, I think people are, they're loving to laugh right now. Yeah. I think we need it more than ever. So tell us a little bit about what's coming up.
They continue to not shy away from social issues, which I really love. But in terms of the laughs, I will say the finale episode has an incredible guest star. It was a really exciting one.
It was something it rhymes with, or?
I do feel like CBS will immediately contact me.
Pull the plug here.
Yeah. But it's fun, and I think we all kind of we figure out our chemistry and what our character actually is about. So I kind of think the season only gets better and better.
Yeah. And to shoot a show that's based in Chicago, how do you love that? Have you made it to Chicago yet?
Well, I went to Northwestern, outside of Chicago, so I was a little bit familiar enough. And the show is about gentrification in Chicago, and I did have was checked a few times, because we'd be talking about Chicago, and I was like, oh, I tried this great brunch place there, and then suddenly I was like, I'm the problem that the entire show is about. But I loved Chicago at school because it's such a great theater city, and it's fun to play with some the references to Wrigley Field. It's nice to have a visual for all of those things, so that it all feels grounded in some kind of reality.
And how's the vibe on set, too? Are you guys pretty loose? You guys have moments where you just can't stop laughing? I'm sure there's a couple jokes that land pretty hard in the room.
Working with stand-ups is like nothing I've ever experienced, because everything's a bit. So even when I was getting to know them and I'd be like, oh, yeah, this happened in my childhood, and they're like, okay, that's how you open your bit. And I was like, this is not a bit. This is my life. But they are the funniest. I mean, David Koechner is one of the funnier people I have. Even sometimes when we'll do the table reads, he'll just stare at me, and something about the expression of his face makes me laugh so hard. And Maz Jobrani, Rel Battle, they think on their feet, and they're not afraid to be bad, and in not being afraid to mess up, they sometimes do the funniest things I have ever seen. So, and Katie Seagal is very funny.
Yeah.
So.
Have you ever been inspired to do a little improv yourself, or?
It's so nerve-wracking to me, because it's so personal. I mean, they really, Jermaine jokes, he's like, well, stand-up is my therapy, and every time I see his stand-up, I want to come up to him after and be like, you okay? Are you good? Because I honestly think in some ways it's more vulnerable than acting, because it's so personal. So I'm going to keep my distance for now.
I mean, have you ever been inspired to take some of your own past? I mean, as far as the dancing, to dance in a film or dance in a TV show?
I don't think anyone wants to see that quite yet. No, I really love to dance for fun, but I'm really quick to tell people that I'm not trained in ballet, and that Black Swan 2 is not happening with me anytime soon, because. Well, I actually don't have the feet for it. I have this weird thing. I think it's technically called pronated ankles, but when I stand, my arches completely collapse. So my parents are like, failure.
Oh, no. They did not say that to you.
No, just when I was too young to like not hear it, but it's somewhere in there. I know. Yeah, but no. Even if I wanted to dance, I don't think I'm built for it, and I really didn't have the. It takes so much patience and focus from little girls, and I was really talkative and really kind of all over the place, and wanted to be a little more in charge, and it requires such kind of pious behavior from kids that I just wasn't for me.
Well, that's fine, because you're doing just all right with the acting. You're doing,
so.
yeah, exactly. Well, we have some questions in the audience. We're going to start right there.
Hey, Anna. Thanks for
Hi.
being here. I know you mentioned that your parents were from the ballet world. I was just wondering how much of an influence were they towards your career as an actress?
Yeah, my dad is acting a bit now, so it's something that we can talk about, which is really cool. But they loved a lot of different art forms growing up, and I feel really lucky because my dad like forced me to sit down and watch Charlie Chaplin, or took me to my mom would take me to the theater all the time, and so they're really supportive, partially just by exposure, but also, you know, that sometimes is difficult because I'm trying to do it my way and do my own thing, and I think everyone has a thing with their parents of like, don't tell me how to do, I'm gonna figure it out on my own, and that's definitely there, but they've been really, more than anything, really encouraging.
That's great. Next question right there.
Hey, Anna. I loved Manchester by the Sea.
Thank you.
I know it was nominated for several awards. Did you get to attend any of the award shows? And if you did, what was it like for you?
Yeah. The one that I actually went to was the Critics' Choice Awards, which was really fun, mostly because I could spot people in the distance. Like, I really love RuPaul, and I had a full, like, that is RuPaul in the same room as me. And then I got to go to the after parties of some of the other ones where I, like, watched Janelle Monáe from, like, across the room, also being like, you're beautiful. It was really fun, and it was interesting to kind of see how all of that happened. But something that I really appreciated about the Manchester folks is that it really didn't feel like the focus. When I would see them, they were kind of already really proud of what they had done, and it was just about enjoying it.
That's great, and there's one last question right there.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So you were mentioning before how similar comedy and drama can be. I'm wondering what other kind of genres or styles of films, maybe you'd like to challenge yourself to do that are like a lot different from that.
Yeah. I have to say I was really inspired by Get Out, about how strong and exciting horror can be. And my friends really love horror movies, and horror is still an event at the theater, and I really love still going to the movies. And when I saw Get Out, I haven't seen a theater packed like that in a long time. So I'd say horror right now is on my mind.
Well, until then, guys, you can catch her on Superior Donuts on CBS. Thank you so much for being here, Anna. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye.